I would be worried.
I totally fuck
It would be interesting to have a woman who is that like skinny just go, "What's up, man?" and lift me in the middle of sex. That'd be fascinating.
Oh yeah, I know, right?
I don't know how I'd react
like
to
she
that.
like just puts holes in the walls and uses that to ancher herself because you're not strong enough to fucking hold her up.
Yeah.
Like, she's just like using the 2x4s going to town and pushing you into a wall. That'd be great.
This is an interesting conversation. I'm really glad we went down this rabbit hole. Please don't make this the opening, but I'm totally down if you want to do a blooper reel at the end.
100%.
Okay.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Clink, clink, clink,
Clank, clank, clank. Hello and welcome to Happy Hour, aka Strange Happy Hour, the weekly gaming news and tech podcast. Actually, it's gaming and tech news podcast, but regardless, let's just move on, shall we? I'm one of your hosts, Brent, the Jesterhead Metcalf, alongside on my right.
Handsome John P.
And on my left.
The dispatcher, Mark Clover.
This evening, we are drinking a wonderful framboise. It is actually the Lindemans framboise, one of my favorites. If you've never had framboise, it is very similar to a cider. It is a lambic beer. So we are drinking the strawberry right now, and then we will later have the raspberry. It's quite enjoyable. You can find them in wine retailers. They're pretty easy to get a hold of, or craft beer stores. I will say the bottles are not necessarily expensive because it's only $10, but if you're going in expecting a little bit cheaper, be prepared. So,
It's the first time I've heard raspberry being pronounced that way. Thank you for educating me.
I'm here to educate the world, not just you.
As they say, I'm today's years old.
Yeah, you are today's years old. That's really important. But there are other things in the world that are far more important. That would be the important shit. We're going to start it off with a dispatcher. Talk to us about this Microsoft and IE. I mean, do we really want to discuss it? Because I hate IE.
Well, it's actually extremely interesting considering that Microsoft is telling you to stay away from IE.
Dun, 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 dun.
Microsoft actually put out a blog post that said they want you to go away from Internet Explorer because it's long outdated, and the only reason they still have it is because of some of their enterprise supporters who still use it for legacy platforms. However, because of it, web developers who develop for modern platforms either don't give a crap about it and literally don't pay attention to it, which means that there can be security loopholes and things like that for legacy platforms that you're trying to support, or you're trying to support legacy platforms that don't get security patch updates anymore. So,
yeah, you might want to move on.
Yeah. So they're actually trying to urge, it's really not even like the small users that they really care about, because, you know, like the people who are on Windows XP, if the small minority that still are, even the people that are on Windows 98 still that kind of thing, you can still download Chrome and, you know, get away with that kind of thing. Now those people, but even then they're the small minority of people that they really, you know, don't probably get affected by it. But it's your large enterprise companies that still use IE7.
Yep.
As their default, when IE10 is the most recent.
I know a few of them.
I happen
It's
to
terrifying.
I tried to
work for
download
one,
Internet
unfortunately.
Explorer as a joke, and it wouldn't let me.
Yeah, there's a reason. In my opinion, it's nice they're taking steps, I guess. Like, hey, you should get off of it. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Literally just cut everybody off.
I don't understand why they haven't just done a hard cut and tell everybody up front, BT dubs,
Yep.
Windows 11 doesn't have IE.
Yep.
It's only going to have Edge.
In my opinion, because they control how the browser operates. You put the next update in which anytime somebody opens it, it automatically takes them to the page to download IE. Or I'm sorry,
Edge is already installed. So it's just like IE. It's already installed. Yeah, as long as you have Windows 10.
So, yeah.
Windows 7 people kind of are stuck where they are. Or if they make an adaptable, then it you know, downloads it for them as part of the patch and then launches it. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, I don't understand people's want to stay back with that. Like, you could at least stick with Edge and compatibility mode, and that'll work just fine.
Yep.
What's the problem? I mean, why even bother? Why not move on by now?
That's what we're talking
I know
about.
it costs money, but like, how much money could it possibly cost to move to another browser?
For Microsoft, it's not a problem. It's for the companies, the big enterprise companies that don't spend the money on large scale updates anyway for web platforms that were built for IE7, IE6, even IE5 actually, which is the default actually at my current employer, which is not good in the slightest. No, don't get me wrong. We use IE7, but it's compatibility mode, you know, for IE5, which is really bad. But the problem is that these enterprise companies don't want to upgrade their software that would have the updated versions to support modern browsers.
others of them also just won't upgrade their hardware because it costs too much to update all of the hardware across their entire enterprise. They're looking at a large sum of money and they're like, screw it, we'll be fine.
Or to upgrade their operating systems.
Until they're not.
Yeah, or to upgrade their operating systems to Windows 10 across the entire corporate space anyway, which again costs a lot more money because you've got to upgrade your contract and sign for a new license on a new operating system and all kinds of things.
But you're absolutely right. They're fine until they're not.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I mean, if Microsoft forced their hand, which I don't think they would, because you'd run into all kinds of problems. First off, they probably contractually can't.
I was going to say,
some extent.
I'm sure they have contracts in which it would prohibit them from doing so.
Right.
But it is still mind-boggling to me. I agree with you in the sense of like the newer platform, we've developed Windows 10. Why even have IE on there? Like,
If you
it should have been a hard
if you have a crappy product and you're like, this is crappy, do you want it? And you say yes, that's on you.
I don't disagree there.
No,
either.
and they're like, okay, I'll make my money, but don't come crying.
Well, yeah, because at a certain point they've got to say, you know what, we're not going to release any more updates for this.
Yep.
We're not going to do security patches. It's all up to you. Anyway,
It is what it is.
It's unfortunate.
speaking of leaving it all up to themselves,
Hey, you go ahead, man. You can do the segue today. I'll just sit tight,
Google
hanging out with
Google's leaving it up to
Theodore
themselves
Harrington.
to develop. Google's leaving it up to themselves
Theodore
to develop
Harrington.
their own processing chips now, to the point that they're actually starting to poach chip engineers from Intel,
You went the wrong way.
NVIDIA, and Qualcomm. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Not too
We
much.
had a float.
We'll bring it back.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're actually poaching people from different chip manufacturers now, from Qualcomm, NVIDIA, and Intel, with the intent of building their own processors.
Ooh.
Now, this I'm assuming they're going to go the Apple route here. There's nothing official said about this. It's just, they've been seeing like big chip engineer heads, migrate from these companies. Now, the prediction here seems to be, and my prediction as well, seems to be that they're looking to build probably their own chips like the Apple route for their own phones and tablets.
See, that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
too.
Now, they already do have their own chip manufacturing department or design department that builds TPUs, tensor processing units. And the whole point is those are for AI. They're actually purpose built to run AI calculations, that kind of thing, multiple scenarios at the same time. So if they actually start stepping into the CPU space and the GPU space anyway for their phones, tablets, maybe even their Chromebook products, that kind of thing, or your Google Home devices or small like IoT, home devices, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that'll really get interesting because you're purpose building a processor for a particular device.
Yeah,
or a purpose.
I
at
agree.
home.
Well, and they have their own Chromebook line too. There's no reason why they wouldn't start doing that as well. It is the next logical step. I mean, especially as you watch a lot of these companies are starting to kind of isolate themselves, trying to rely upon themselves only. I think that's part of the market's getting more competitive, but also we have seen issues with certain corporations just not having the product available. So they don't have the processors, or they don't have the screen, or they don't have whatever.
Or they're having issues, and you're like, well, I have a product that's supposed to come out. What is your issue?
Yep.
I mean, what are they using with the Pixel right now?
The standard Snapdragon 845, I think.
Okay.
From
so,
Qualcomm.
Okay. Well, I mean, have they had any issues, supply issues with that?
No. Oh, well, first off, that Snapdragon 845 is the standard chip for every flagship phone except for the iPhone. Like my phone is running an 845. You're running a what is your Note?
Guess.
I want to see
8.
you have a Note
8.
Okay, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Well, actually, no. The Note 9's the most recent.
Yes.
Mhm.
Never mind. Okay, but anyway, the top flagships. I'm thinking too hard about this.
Yes, you are.
And
okay.
Apple uses
No.
the A chip, or whatever
they have-
series it's on right now.
Yeah, they have their own manufactured.
I think they're on A10 right now, right?
They have their own bespoke chip.
Bespoke?
Correct. Custom made for its own function.
Okay,
That's
all
what
right.
bespoke
Yeah,
is. Come on, people.
I'm uneducated. I don't know what you're talking about.
A dictionary. Utilize it.
I'll just put the definition across.
Yeah.
No. Actually, I think they're running the A7, but still, like the idea is that the Snapdragon 845 is the most up-to-date chip for all the flagships that are out there. So they wanted to throw that in there and use it as well. But if they can build something that's a little bit better or ahead of the curve, that kind of thing, from these chip engineers that they're bringing in, then
I mean, it makes
it might
perfect.
give them an edge.
It makes perfect sense, considering that they have been known to branch out, like technology like Google Glass, which could be really interesting with some AR functionality.
Yep.
Well, do you think there's something else being kind of like brought up for that they're really wanting this for? That like people are thinking that it's for the Chromebooks and the phones.
It is
but
possible.
they're making something else.
I think it's too early to really.
Oh yeah, I
say
know. This
anything,
is all
you know,
speculation, but I'm like, well, I mean, if you were to think what they were possibly going to put that towards, what would it be, other than AI?
Honestly, I think it would be something for more of their internal stuff, like the
Right.
AI is utilized.
Well, not even the AI. Like if they could build their own processors, their own server
Yeah.
CPUs anyway for their own server, their own in-house servers, which are already custom designed boards and everything like that. I think they could do better off anyway if they build chips that are purpose built for the individual sections of the cloud that they have.
Absolutely. Or in something like Google Glass with AR.
I heard
Speaking of AR,
I heard you try to roll that one before. Speaking of AR, Google had talked about this at I/O beforehand, and they are using AR now for foot-based navigation, using what they're calling the visual positioning system. And the idea is that it uses image recognition software against. Yes.
okay,
using-
like that's what you would look like.
No, literally, like the way that you'd start out, and I don't have my phone with me, but you'd start out, you'd point like in one particular direction. And the problem is GPS in big cities, that kind of thing, is particularly difficult because the signal is constantly bouncing off of the buildings and everything like that. So you don't really know where you're at. And if you look, your dot moves constantly. And that's actually part of their demo with this, is that you see with GPS, it's like the little U icon moves all over the place.
Perfect for Pokemon Go when you're sitting in an office and then your person just runs all day. I hatch eggs like crazy. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, with the visual positioning surface,
I don't want it.
it's
I
no
want to
longer going
run all
to be
day
a
get
thing.
eggs.
So the point is that it uses the Google Street View imagery to use image recognition as you pan your camera around the city in front of you to identify your precise location based on how you point it at the ground, up at the buildings, and around and at the storefronts and things like that. They're in
That's
front
cool.
of you. Yep. And the idea is it can give you like actual AR in front of you of like what your camera sees, and then a little. The idea is it's a little circle at the bottom with your actual map location,
Mhm.
and then dots that run down the sidewalk.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how they're finding ways to adapt the technology they have. And realistically, just something that we never would have thought about beforehand. Partly because the capabilities are finally getting, it's not even that the capabilities are finally getting there because they've been there for a while, but it's taking the application and thinking, oh, we should put these two things
Well,
together.
It also takes a company like Google that has this much data about the Earth
True.
to be able to do that. You know, like unless you had a Street View database to be able to, 360-degree views of almost like every like 3 feet of the Earth, of the Earth's roads and sidewalks, you're not gonna be able to get that. There's no way.
I
I
agree.
dare him to go to Ireland.
Watch them.
Tiny roads.
Watch them.
I consistently hope that the Google Map car comes out while I'm working from home one day because I'm going to run out naked. Just be like, Google.
You already see that
There's been
a-
some crazy stuff
I was
that
gonna say,
Google camera has got.
There's one where these kids, I guess, saw it in the rearview mirror, pulled off to the side of the road, jumped out, and got on the hood of the car. One kid's got his shirt off like this.
Yeah.
You know, just sort of spread across, like draw me like one of your French girls.
I'm sure that's probably the PG-13 version.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the PG-13 version. The one thing I do like about
Kids?
various technology. No, we're just going to move on to you, John. Facebook is compensating kids.
It's not Facebook.
Yes, it is.
Nope.
Yeah, it is. It's fine.
It's not.
It could be Apple, but it might be Facebook.
It's probably Apple.
Call back
It's
to last
probably
episode.
Apple.
So Apple right now, the teenager that found the, well, I guess that'd be technically both because he was
There
involved.
were, two people.
But the security fault that they found with FaceTime, Apple was like, "Hey, thanks, kid.
Yeah.
We're gonna give you compensation." They didn't disclose what that compensation was gonna be, but I'm pretty sure they're paying for his college.
That's pretty cool.
We're
Yeah.
going to get you a nice date to the prom. That's the compensation, all right? That
There you
makes
go.
sense.
You
That's
probably
fair.
got
There
that
you go.
plus an education.
Yeah.
Um,
One can only hope.
because I can only imagine how much money they probably saved them in litigation alone.
Mhm.
Yeah, no kidding.
From
'Cause-
something major happening.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
if
yeah.
something happened with a business of a startup or even a large corporation that's already been founded. Yeah,
Not only
secrets
that.
got out that shouldn't have, or someone heard something they weren't supposed to.
Yeah, my thinking was more along the lines of them selling that information to people who could use it for nefarious means.
Yeah.
Because it was a simple fix on Apple's end. Once they
Oh,
figured
yeah.
out, they were able to patch it together. But it was the point that they did not know.
Mhm.
So
Well, and on top of the fact that they kind of ignored them until it was brought to their attention via social media, and they were like, "Oh, we're listening now." Well, they're like, "Hey, sorry we didn't listen to you the first time. Here's an education. Have fun."
I just feel like there was some executive at one of their what do they call it? The help centers where this woman comes in and is like, hey, Fred, like this kid's family keeps calling. There's something about FaceTime. He's like, just leave it. It's fine. And then a week later, they're like, Fred, why didn't you address this situation? I was like, I'm sorry.
I told my assistant,
Yeah,
Gary, you're
Where
fired.
is she? That's exactly what happened.
Why does that have to be a she?
I mean,
It's super stereotypical.
it very well could be.
God, I can't believe you.
Listen,
But unfortunately, there was no disclosed information about how much he was compensated, but there was something about education. But
I was talking about a she originally. That's why I went she. Don't try and paint me in a bad light.
what? Was she?
There were
what?
two characters. There was Gary or Fred.
Gary's
Frank,
a
I don't
dude.
know what his name is anymore. And then Loretta.
I didn't hear the word Loretta.
Well,
come out
I'm
of your
sorry
mouth.
you missed it the first time.
I don't think I got
I'm
it.
just saying. I
don't
said
think it happened.
two people.
Did he say Loretta?
No, I
No.
did, but there was a
Yeah,
woman involved.
exactly.
I know that much.
All right. Well, other things that are amazing would be. You gonna start me off?
I mean, you just started rolling into
All
it.
right,
Why
fine.
do I have to do
Apex
the work
Legends
now?
is doing great. So right now they
Apex Legends and Titanfall 2.
It's not Titanfall 2. God, you're such a dick. So right now, Apex Legends is a
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale. Thank you. I was like, it's not MOBA. That just came out, and everybody's loving it right now. 2.5 million people on the first day
Mhm.
to download. It reached 1 million concurrent players within the first 3 days. 10 million people total have played this game in 3 days and 72 hours.
Yeah.
Beats Fortnite in streaming on the first day.
Yeah.
And also the
Division
and
2.
fourth.
It beat Division 2 beta as well, which came out that same weekend.
yeah, which I'm not so surprised because it's a free game to actually play.
Yes.
Where beta was a lot more restrictive. You either got into the lottery or you pre-owned the game in order to get all of the beta.
But the way streaming works is not just necessarily people who
Oh,
are
I'm sorry, you're
streaming
talking about
it's
streaming for
views.
Division,
It's
sorry.
views, yeah. And I was surprised that Division 2 was essentially knocked entirely down the list.
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on.
There
I
is.
mean,
There is. You're not wrong.
It's you got to pick and choose your battles, and I'm sure that people were like, "Oh, okay, Division 2. This is more what I can totally." When we were playing it, I'm like, "This is more what we got. A little bit new facade going on with the background. We're doing good. Okay, this looks really cool." And then you're done with it, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're watching the end game and doing other stuff, but at that point, you're playing it.
We're in the end game now.
Oh yeah, end game's fun. End game is critical. Oh my god, and I hope it gets harder, and I know it will. But yeah, shout out to Division 2,
Yeah.
by the way. That was awesome beta.
It
Good
was.
job.
But Apex looks solid.
Yeah,
There-
I've been watching actually streams of it. Shroud was doing a really good job.
Yeah.
He's freaking
I mean,
killing it like he
I
does
played
with
it.
everything else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, no, fantastic game.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's very much Overwatch
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
mixed with basically the graphics of Titanfall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's honestly they did a really good job with it because everything is very much squad based. It's even if you're by yourself, you get coupled in with two other guys anyway as part of the 3-man squad, and then you have a squad leader that's
Oh,
responsible
cool.
for picking where you go. The launch system over the ship that you come in on. The squad leader is responsible for directing where the squad goes to.
Mhm.
The squad members can make like recommendations, like, "Hey, let's go here, that kind of thing." And he will guide, literally like control the other two people who fly in a formation with you until you get to a certain point, and then the other guys can
You
press
know,
E or whatever, and then split off and go to other buildings.
That's cool.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That's real cool.
Watching the only thing I missed about it is the wall running aspect because Titanfall is huge into that gameplay. Not a whole lot of opportunity. I didn't see anybody do it once.
It's not possible.
Okay.
It's not a
So
mechanic. in
I
there.
was about to say, if it is, people aren't doing it, and I feel like that was one of the major things that I enjoyed, especially when I played Titanfall 2's on multiplayer. It was a total game changer. If you were good at it, like really good at it, like spatially, cognitively, like you were just perfect, you could destroy people
well,
in
I mean,
ways that would embarrass people like Shroud or even Ninja. in
from
Fortnite.
my understanding is that there's still a lot of verticality here, and you may be able to speak to this,
Oh,
where
yeah.
there's like zip lines across the entire
Mhm.
field, and
Like there's even zip lines that go straight up to a floating balloon,
Yep.
so that you can again go into that sort of launch mode
So,
or whatever to fly across
it
the map.
gets you awesome idea. I wish they had that in Fortnite because it's one of the things that kind of like just irked me. I was like, it's so far. to
Oh,
go.
great! I got to run all the way across the map.
Now,
At least PUBG had vehicles. Like,
Yeah, and true. And the vehicles in Blackout are good. They get you where you want to go. But I feel like if you had a system that could like literally launch you again, that could totally change the
Yeah.
outcome of the game.
Yep.
People could wait out longer. I feel like it speeds up the game not having it, but this gives advantage to people who are more tactical.
agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. And with its launch, there's a lot of questions about what Respawn's doing next and what's happening to Titanfall.
Yeah.
'Cause-
There was a lot of rumors going around that Titanfall 3 was coming out this
Yeah.
year, and it unfortunately has been just totally shut down, and right now it's suspect that it was completely axed. But there is another game coming out from Respawn that is in the Titanfall universe, but they said it is not Titanfall 3. I think it's going to be this. I think what they're playing on words right now, and I think it's going to be the successor to Titanfall. But I think that it's not going to be called Titanfall 3.
I think, well, the wording they used was they're trying something experimental.
Yeah.
So I definitely think this is not what 3 would
That's
be
why
or what it will be. I think this is going to be another spinoff like Apex Legends.
It's going to be a premium game. You're going to be paying
Yes,
money for
100%.
it. It's not going to be a pay-as-you-go like Apex Legends.
But I do believe this is going to be. I think that one day there will be Titanfall 3. I don't think this is going to be a replacement for that. I think it's very much going to be something in a different vein, just like Apex Legends is very much in a different vein for Titanfall universe.
But
it's still
to
going to
me,
have
it kind of is upsetting because, again, you don't have the same quality that Titanfall was, and Apex Legends being in this universe. I'm like, okay, but it's not.
Wait, did
same.
they actually say that it is in the universe? Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
It's all the same world. They apparently attempted to put Titans in, but they couldn't balance it correctly. I imagine as the time goes on and they play with the game more, it'll be out. What is interesting is that this game is entirely Respawn's idea. They actually went to EA executives and were like, please don't announce this. Like, we don't want the grief. We want to stealth launch this. And these execs were like, I don't know. Like, I mean, stealth launch in 2019 seems like it's going to be pretty tough to do. And then all the media outlets picked up and were like, oh, they're making Titanfall 3. And so that same head at Respawn was like, just don't say anything. just let them run with it. That's fine. Like, this is what we need. And they were able to stealth launch it that way. However, I think that's also created another media issue of now where's Titanfall 3? Because there was a expectation.
I was hungry.
So we'll see what comes out of that. I think there's a lot of room to play for sure.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what they come out with. Respawn, I think, is underrated. I think they're really talented, and I feel like I don't know why EA likes to shoot themselves directly in the thigh, like right here repeatedly.
It's still ridiculous, like, because this came out.
Battlefield came out at the same exact time as Titanfall 2 did,
and now we have Apex Legends, which just launched 4 or 5 days ago. This Friday's the 15th, which is when a bunch of games drop. The following week is the 22nd, which is when Anthem drops. And then supposedly sometime soon is going to be the Battlefield BR. So
Firestorm's supposed
a
to
lot of long-winded and games that you can't really separate from.
And they're talking about how they have losses this quarter. And I understand because you keep taking your games and going, let's just put them all at the same time. Like,
and not only that, but then like we're going to screw up all our Disney
blow your
stuff.
load joke, but
there you go.
You can blow your load all early. Just right here at the beginning of the year,
all together.
They blow their load on that end, and then they totally screw up on the other with Disney. They're not making any money on those contracts.
No, they're not. They're not, unfortunately. And it is really interesting to watch because Disney themselves has decided that the future that they're going to have is going to involve making these deals. They want to publish games. They no longer want to create them. Making these licensing deals, going to different producers,
not doing anything,
is doing great. I think EA, the head of Disney's Interactive, has basically said they are fine with EA. They have no problems with them. I think it's a bold-faced lie because
they shut down Interactive, didn't they?
They have, it's another branch, but it's the same principle. I can't remember the name, so I'm using the Interactive vernacular. But they've literally released 2 games and a mobile game. There's supposedly more games coming down the tailpipe. We know Respawn's one of those developers is supposed to be making a Jedi game. However, we're still kind of stuck wondering what they're doing. But let's take Star Wars and EA out of it. I mean, Marvel's doing super well. We have Marvel Spider-Man that released on Sony's platforms, selling millions within the first week. We have, what is it? Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is coming out as a Switch exclusive. I mean, they're starting to really pick and choose where they belong. They just released Kingdom Hearts 3 along with Square Enix, and that is a ton of Disney properties. And that's an older deal, but that still being said, that's them doing the same thing they're doing now.
Right. Like, I'd be really interested to hear those numbers.
That's 5 million within the first 3 days.
Oh man!
So they're really putting their cards in the right place, and they take none of the loss. You know, if there's a bad Marvel Spider game, who cares? You're the best, buddy. If there's a bad Marvel Spider game, they just take that away from the partner they chose and they give it to somebody else. Like, it is a total win for them. And now that they own all these properties, they just have everything they can throw out at the kitchen sink. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
It is absolutely insane.
EA's got a lot of talent, and I feel like they squander it sometimes, but every now and then they come out with something great, and hopefully Anthem's going to be one of them. And Apex Legends, I've got it downloaded. It was downloading while I was watching it on Twitch, so I was like, whenever you're done.
Well, definitely worth looking at.
Yeah.
EA is doing super well, and unfortunately, we're hearing murmurs about another developer that's going to be facing some layoffs here soon.
Oh, man.
According to a lot of talk on the back end, Activision is going to start laying off people at Blizzard. The layoffs are supposed to happen as early as Tuesday, which would be tomorrow, the 12th.
Holy cow.
So we're not quite sure what the level of layoffs are. I've heard as much as 50%. I've heard far less than that. But people are preparing, and this is super unfortunate. We've talked previously about how Blizzard is a talented developer that seems to be squandering a lot of what's going on, and we're not sure if that's Blizzard, is that Activision. It seems to be a lot of Activision because it's starting to happen more and more as Activision's really taking the reins over. But, you know,
I thought the whole point with that Blizzard was supposed to be like in control. We know what we're doing, and now all of a sudden you've got the greedy hands.
If Activision's a parent company, they can make decisions and change their own deal on the fly. Like,
the biggest problem with Activision is that they rely on serialization. That's why Call of Duty is released every year. That's why they put 3 developers in charge of it.
It's
and
not like they're not making massive
understand.
amounts of money.
It's the same argument to make with pretty much every large company.
It's about the percentage.
Like,
the problem is unfortunately, once you get to a point where you're making so much money as a company, your shareholders are like, well, how can we make more?
Yeah.
How
Well,
can
I
we
get
make
it,
more?
but, like,
how can we make more? You know, and
How many
that's
yachts can you have?
Yep.
not enough,
Not
apparently.
wrong. Like, not wrong. So
I can't imagine what it's like to be a Blizzard employee right now because
Why
I
would
cannot
you wanna
imagine anybody
squander that
knows.
talent?
yeah.
You know, like you're not going to know, and you're not going to know until tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're not
And,
going to.
and even then, like, it could be just the first round. Like, who says you're not getting laid off 6 months from now?
Yeah.
Like, how can you count on any of these projects coming down the
Why would
tailpipe
you
to actually
stick
sustain
around?
your money? Most people probably won't,
Nope.
unfortunately.
And they're going to have all that talent's going to leave them. And granted, they're going to get sucked up in this industry right now. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, we're going for this game. Get those people right now. They're going to lose it out.
No.
And
There's
they're
other
not going to get it back.
There's other companies out there who probably already saw this article and said, we need to get a list of those names. We need to find out who we can get a hold of.
On Twitter, there are people who are already passing around a list of employment companies looking for employees right now. Like, hey, here's a bunch of developers.
You got plenty of places to go.
You're going to literally have them leaving that day to another office.
Yeah.
So the layoffs are one thing. I think the other side of it's going to be whether or not they get severance.
Yeah.
So
That's the key one.
Activision makes a ton of money. Like, you know, you've reiterated and we've all reiterated several times here. If they don't give their employees that they're firing severance packages, that's going to set a precedent for who they hire in the future.
Yep.
Because I feel like they're not going to be able to get developers to stick around
100%.
because they're going to be afraid if I'm a part of a company that gets absorbed, or better yet, part of a division of Activision that doesn't perform well, I could get axed easily and dropped on the side of the street with nothing.
If they pull a Tall Tale game, they're not Tall Tale games where they're getting like, gone. They're just dissembling or
Yeah, they're
dissolving.
Dissolving. Thank you. Oh my God. It's going to be a different story when they try to make another game, and there's going to be a
100%.
lot more of a repercussion to it.
Yeah,
So.
I agree. Really, the best hopes and wishes for everybody who's affected.
Yeah.
If it happens, this is all speculation, but I'm honestly assuming at this point that it probably has.
There's
so.
I mean, Jason Schreier doesn't really say things that he doesn't mean.
He very rarely cries wolf.
Yeah.
So I will say that. But we can move on to some more news about classic RPGs similar to Diablo. I know, I'll get there in a second. Skybound Entertainment, the same publisher that came out and saved Telltale Games for The Walking Dead. It is the publisher of the Walking Dead comics, has decided that they're going to release a boatload of classic RPGs this year on console and PC. And that would include a bunch of updates to said RPGs, including Baldur's Gate 2, Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragonspear. Of course, my phone updated just there. Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, and Neverwinter Nights. These are all classic old PC RPGs that are being updated, brought over to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC.
That explains why I don't know one of them.
No, it's a bunch of RPGs that I never played growing up, but they're very well known. And I love that Skybound has positioned themselves in a way where they're like, no, we're going to start picking up these things and really start to do something with it. And I actually wanted to reference a few of the games that they already own right now, which kind of blew me away because I didn't realize they were such a big publisher. If only my phone would
And they
load.
they really did seem to kind of take hold of the Walking Dead scenario, and it was fairly seamless. So it seemed
Okay.
like they kind of knew what they were doing,
Yeah.
and who needed to be in what positions and who needed to orchestrate
They probably
things.
took the infrastructure straight from them, and said, "All right, we're just gonna re-implement the same stuff."
We
over
got
again,
this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You suck at life.
Absolutely.
How does it suck to suck?
How does it suck? It's not working. So
I was about to say, man, I can only go so long.
I know. I'm trying my damnedest here.
I mean, we're just trying to stall here for you. People, it's
Ooh,
it's
his
really
new
difficult
name.
trying to
What's
stall
his
for
new
him.
name?
I thought we were
Theodore
doing
Harrington.
Harrington Collinsworth.
Collinsworth. That's right. Theodore Harrington Collinsworth.
So they don't actually have just a title.
He's a
Okay,
little
you know
nutty.
what? Their actual website, which is a lot easier to find, you can find it in the comments up above us, actually has
Down
a
below.
whole.
Actually, it'll be in the description. It's
It'll be
legitimately in the
always
description.
in the description. It is quite a bit of titles that they've picked up over the years, which is surprising to me. So it reminds me a little bit of a THQ Nordic situation, but
Yeah.
it's not as drastic because they're not going around and acquiring like, let's just pick up these 20 titles. It's every now and then like, oh, we'll take this. And we'll take this. And they're slowly but surely becoming a nice little small publisher. It makes me excited.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm always excited about that. But that is
The important shit.
for this week. I think we actually hit the mark just in time. That being said,
pun
Please don't hit me.
intended.
Don't hit me.
maybe we will. That being said, it's
Hit
time
me,
to talk
baby,
about
one
the
more time.
topic of the show. This week, since I'm the only one who put in a topic, we didn't even vote.
Nope.
It's a little bit of inside
It's a
baseball.
little unanimous.
It was actually, for as much stuff that we found, believe it or not, there wasn't much to get a topic off of. And I was
And this is perfect because I really wanted to talk about this and I
Yeah.
didn't have to fight about it. How do we in this modern age, we're in 2019, there's a lot of incriminating evidence, allegations and evidence coming out for people, for products, for companies that we thoroughly enjoy.
Mhm.
And how do we, as responsible adults, responsible citizens of the world, consumers, deal with this? And
I'll let you know as soon as I get a refill.
I wanted to talk about this
I was gonna
today.
say we did just change sections of the show. It's
You're
Time
still
for part
drinking.
two.
I'm drinking. I'm talking.
Don't
The
mix
reason
it.
why I
That's
wanted
just
to
weird.
talk about this is because of Liam Neeson's recent comments. Have you heard about
Yeah, I
this?
have.
I have not.
So Liam Neeson was in an interview where he was discussing his character for the new movie that's coming out, and he was saying that he understood the rage of the character because when he was younger, a friend of his was raped by a black man, so he took to the streets at night with a gun trying to murder a black man, trying to find one to murder in Ireland in the 70s.
Very different time, by the way.
It was
Very
a different
different
time. It was a different thought process. However, it is racist of what happened.
I find that in the context that it was, when you have someone who is blinded by rage, when it comes to someone who is is or is not racist, or someone who is prejudiced in any way, you can technically be irrational without being a racist.
You're not wrong. You're not
So,
wrong at all.
I feel like people are taking him to this extreme, and I'm like, he's telling you a story about something that he had done.
Right.
That we are all freaking human, by the way. Like, I don't understand. Like, everybody's had lost a friend, had someone hurt, and I'm like, I would murder that person, or I would get them back for that, or something to the effect of like, as people, we like retribution. It feels good. We see it in our movies. We see it in our video games. I mean, the dude does nothing but those movies.
I think it's the difference though of him actually going out into the streets.
Yeah.
with a
I know, but
gun
we're
in
also talking about the
search of this,
70s, and during
Oh,
that
yeah,
time,
no,
there
no.
was a lot more violence
and a lot more
going
racism.
on in Ireland.
It was a very different time, but it also is the fact that he wasn't looking for a specific individual. He was like, I just want to find a black man and murder him. That's the racist part of it.
Yes, but it was also
Just take a whiff.
Just
before you-
because there's logic behind it doesn't mean that it's not racist.
no. I'm not saying that. Well, I'm saying him as a person, like saying that he is a racist. What had happened was
That dog is
it
on
could
our
be
end.
whatever it is. I really don't care what they call
Yeah.
him. Like, if you want to feel like it is that way, I'm completely okay with that. I feel like he was a person who was in a moment that was extremely angry and was mad for his friend and wanted retribution, wasn't going to get it, and he didn't know how to process.
I think it's unfortunate that he told the story the way he did.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think that's really the biggest problem in this. Well, the biggest problem in today's situation, because we're in 2019.
Yep.
When he was doing Stalking the Streets, it was over 30 years ago, almost 50 years ago. Actually.
Unfortunately, we don't
Yeah,
ever think
so-
about the fact that it was 30 years or 40 years ago.
Yeah,
No,
at least
50 years ago.
Almost 50 years ago. Yeah.
But we also have other issues, like we're talking about Activision coming in and just cutting their employees. We have the Telltale situation in which they undercut their employees without any information. We have Kevin Spacey, who has not
Started
only
touching 14-year-olds.
yeah, we have
he's-
evidence,
and
for
we're not in
everything he's done.
Japan.
He handled that wrong. I'll give him a little bit there. He
Dude, that
handled
dude, I
wrong.
mean, what he did was disgusting, but at the same time, what he did was like, yeah, all right, I'm going to go to therapy.
What he did
like,
was
okay.
what he did was I'm gay.
Yeah,
and then it was just like that makes it okay. I guess
I'm bisexual. I've always been
No, he
open
also
about
said
this.
he
I
was
don't
going to go to
understand.
therapy or something and take care of it. And I was like, okay.
So again, where does that leave us? Because I enjoy Kevin Spacey as an actor,
I'm
but
still going to watch those movies.
I
I'm just
can't.
going to know that he also probably touched a 14-year-old while making that movie.
I tried going back and rewatching House of Cards, and it's just tainted for me.
Yeah, I actually going back
Really?
to finish
100%.
the seasons of House of Cards have actually been hard for me too.
Especially when you take into account that a lot of allegations that came off of that set where he was predatory towards individuals on that set.
You almost can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
But like, I wonder what he did.
It's
all
I wonder what he
associated
did
in there
Why
now.
he
Like
did
the
that.
movie
Yeah.
21. Like
Yeah.
I love that movie too.
Seven. I mean, I could go
man.
for days on the things I love Kevin Spacey in, but
He's
it's
a-
hard for me to
Amazing actor
To do it anymore.
and end up turning out to be a horrible human
horrible.
being.
And he's not the only one. That's just the more common. Like it's the most recent occurrence that I can think of that has gone down that rabbit hole that doesn't involve politicians.
Well, I mean,
Politicians, we can go all night.
I was about to say, I was like, people are horrible to each other in general.
Yep.
It seems like greed is starting to become a factor that we have to start talking about, and we can't ignore it.
I agree.
In both politics, people who are famous. Man, take it out, buddy.
Seriously, you're going to town. Okay.
But at the same time, like, are we going to be able to get away from it? If money is such a driver, how do we fix this problem?
I think part of that is taking a look at various content that is being propagated by these individuals and walking away from it. I truly think that, sure, a lot of the movies that Kevin Spacey has already made, majority of those companies have made money on. But if you're streaming it on Netflix, Netflix is making money off of that, so you need to
Right.
stop.
Yeah.
Like if Activision is cutting Blizzard games, then you probably need to start walking away from Activision published products.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it's difficult.
The speaking with the wallet thing is actually working. It's worked for a lot
Yeah.
of scenarios, but I
100%.
also feel like in some scenarios, like they don't have a place for that. They're there to make money and to create a product. And if you like the product, you're supposed to buy it. Now we're starting to like say, okay, now we're changing our buying habits by who you are
Mhm.
as a company. And I think that's good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like,
Well, companies are people now, so it's
yeah,
fine.
and I mean, their entire prospect is to make money, so therefore it's just greed in general. So it's a thing that we want, but is bad inherently because the system that supports it is bad, but we need it because that's what we want.
Well, I mean, you have to start somewhere, and I do think that individually, it is going to be a case by case situation. But
Well, I mean, again, with us like giving our money to
publishers and developers,
for investments.
Yeah.
Say we were trying to invest into EA, and you like with the whole debacle with Jared Petty, and he couldn't talk about certain stuff, but he had money in EA, and EA was doing the loot box stuff. Big controversy. People weren't buying the money or buying the games and stuff because of the loot boxes, and they didn't feel like it was right. And it's like, okay, so was the loot box thing bad now? Because now EA's got a game that is completely surrounded by loot boxes, but it's completely transparent. And that was one thing about Apex Legends that was really cool.
Yeah.
But not one person have I heard gripe about it.
You know why, though? It's because of how they handled the situation.
Yeah. They
It
were
has-
up front. The developer said, I want these loot boxes. I'm okay with it. Here's all the transparency and everything you're going to get.
Yeah,
out of these
you
loot
get
boxes.
you get drop rates every 30. You're guaranteed a legendary. Like they did a lot of things. They put a lot of checks in place to ensure consumers are happy.
So this is one thing I've learned. Okay, so this is going to be a weird analogy, but the fappening.
Yes,
Like when a bunch of celebrities' photos and everything like that got released.
There's nothing weird about that.
The celebrities who were up front and say, "Yep, that was me. Yep, yeah, I know. I was sending them to this person or that person, that kind of thing," and didn't really blow up and like try to cover it up or any of that stuff. That all blew over for them.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was all like cool. Whatever.
I'm sure they spent
like,
a lot of money trying to pay off certain things to get that off the internet.
yeah. But I
man down. You guys can't hear that. It's fine. We'll keep going.
anyway, no, that's me actually. No, but no, it's to me as long as you're up front, like who really gives a crap at that point. But Actually, I haven't gotten my piece, so I wanted to get over to this because I'm going to play the other side of this. I don't care.
Yeah.
So it like you guys talk about going back and watching the first 2 seasons of or first couple seasons of House of Cards. That never bothered me. I still see his face on them every now and then. Whatever, I mean that doesn't pop into my brain every time I watch or see Kevin Spacey's face.
But when I'm making a decision on like, would I rather watch this or would I rather watch this? I'm gonna be like, I don't feel like watching you because you kind of made me mad. You hurt me a little bit.
Does not affect me in the slightest.
Yeah.
No,
Well, there's just so much content. Why bother though?
See, but that's the thing. So to me, anyway, it's much more of a transactional thing. If he is there to do a job, I don't care who he is as a person outside of it.
Interesting.
And,
You know,
and I'm
now-
okay with that. I'm okay with that thought process.
Yeah, and I don't get me wrong. I understand.
Yeah.
Netflix's position of we've got to let him go. I understand. Like other people's position of I don't want to buy Activision products because I don't support the fact that they're doing giant layoffs at Blizzard. I understand speaking with your wallet like that. My thing is I'm going to speak with my wallet in the sense that I don't care. If you put out a decent product, I'm there to purchase your product. I'm not there to give a crap about necessarily the person you hire to do that. For example, for House of Cards, I probably if there's another season, I doubt there will.
There's
be.
not.
No.
This,
Oh, they
this
already
sixth
have
season was
Ray-
last season.
Yeah.
But even if there was, I don't think I'd watch it again because I think Kevin Spacey was the lead actor for that. Like he was the face for that. And the problem is that I didn't enjoy the last one where they focused on Claire Underwood.
Yeah.
So
I felt like
Spoiler
she was
alert, by the way.
She was a strong supporting character.
Right.
And to watch that happening, I was like,
I
not
mean,
even
they
interested.
slowly transitioned her into a co-lead actor.
Yeah.
In the position, and that's fine. But where she gets like almost 100% of the screen time, can't do it.
Honestly, I think that they were burdened by the fact that without him there, she had no adversary. Like
Yeah.
he would have been her adversary, and I think that would have been a fucking
and they had to
incredible
make
season.
one.
It would have been. I know.
It would have
And
been
We all wanted it. It was
amazing,
building
but-
to it. We're like, I feel the tension. Now cut, and it's just like, ugh.
So, is there any line for you? Like, not this is not me attacking you. I'm asking genuinely.
I'll put legal limitations.
Okay,
Okay. Fine. If you're getting arrested because you're actively, touching a child, okay, that's a problem. Like that kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, that's not going to affect your previous works. I think it just means I'm not going to see you in future works, and that's fine. And it does affect you a little bit, but okay, murdering people would be another one. Like, wow, that guy actually killed somebody, and that's going to sit in my brain. But I'm still going to enjoy the
See, that
content.
one actually
came out
doesn't
with it.
affect me as much for some
yeah,
reason.
me
Like-
neither.
But for example, like I'm still going to watch the previous
weird.
content. It's still going to be there. I'm just like. Again, I told you I'm a Jake Gyllenhaal fanboy. If he came out and said, yeah, I killed 3 people and goes to prison, well, that just means I'm not going to see any more content. I'm still going to watch End of Watch on a regular basis because it's one of my favorite movies.
Well, one thing that to go back to the Liam Neeson thing, just because I've been thinking about it a little bit more, is he was comfortable enough to talk about this. So that tells you he's moved on, that he has grown as an individual. And not to mention that this happened 50 years ago, where the world was a very different place, and that people are able to grow and change. And he obviously was comfortable enough to tell people this, saying, I am now a different person. And I don't think that was right.
The problem
But at
is
the same time, that was my irrational thought process behind what was going on
part of
and where I'm delving my acting experience into.
For one, his decision to tell, because he told it like a press junket. It wasn't an intimate one-on-one interview. So any of that never got across. It was literally him telling the tale of going down hunting black people.
Yeah.
And that's the context matters the most
Yeah.
when you're talking about these sensitive things. So if you really do want to convey that message, you have to pick and choose the position to make that message.
I don't feel like he would have done that if thinking that, oh well, I don't really care. I think it was so long ago. He's like, it was so dumb.
It is very obvious he was not thinking about the context of what he was saying.
Yeah.
In his head, it meant something completely different.
Unfortunately, he's a public face, though.
Yeah.
Any kind of public face, it's got to matter what you say and how you say it.
Oh, I know.
Like you could talk about what your past was, but the problem is if it wasn't, crystal clear, nobody really or completely clean, everybody wants to hear about it. Everybody wants to make a big deal about it.
All I know is no one comes into this world clean, and we ain't leaving clean.
No,
But
I don't think anybody's. I think there is an issue with people striving for a perfection on a public area, and then that to me is mind-boggling in general.
Right.
Like we as a society in America here have an issue with this desire for people to be perfect or companies to be perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to be doing the best all the time. They can never falter. And so when we get to these larger issues, it's like, wow, that's a real downfall. Or it just breezed over when in reality we should be addressing things as they come realistically.
Okay,
Like-
this person is still touching, his trying to sexually abuse, his or coworkers, kind of. Okay, that's a problem. We
Yeah.
might want to address that.
Well, as an industry that should be addressed too. But
Agreed.
at the same time, like you have Duke Power, like they totally destroyed the environment, destroyed people's groundwater.
Coal ash ponds, baby.
I mean, they really messed up royally
Yeah.
and didn't care, and then are charging us.
Yep.
Basically to fix their issues because they didn't want to deal with it in the first place.
Right.
They were enjoying their earnings.
Right.
And
We also have a government here in this wonderful state of North Carolina that just lets them do stuff.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help.
It's also,
Pat
it's also
McCrory's
because they can just sort of threaten to be like, we're gonna shut down power, by the way, if you do anything.
the monopoly factor is
Hey.
getting a little intense, and the
Yeah.
fact that
Let's
Pat
renegotiate
McCrory
this.
is like I don't know had stock in Duke and was on the board of Duke and stuff. It's bad.
You mean like a Jeep Pie?
And
know,
a
but at the
being-
same
governor of
time,
North
you're
Carolina
still-
for years.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I know.
You mean like a Jeep Pie? The guy who's in charge of the FCC? Being like, oh yeah, no problem. Verizon, you do your thing. Big deal, whatever.
Yes, correct.
But at the same time, we're still going to buy their power.
We have
Because
no
we need it.
choice.
I
though.
know.
That's a different scenario.
But I don't see our government standing up for what's right. I don't see people saying, all right, fine. Well, let's not have power. That's not going to happen.
well, realistically, that's not something you can do.
Well, again, you're talking about responsibility.
I am.
That should be something that we should be fighting head on now. And instead, we're
Right.
talking about the giant Cheeto doing dumb things every
No,
day.
there are people who do. We're not
It's drowned.
It's not necessarily drowned. It's just that you have to look for that avenue. If you care enough, you go and find those people and you do work towards something.
Yeah.
We live in a world where there is a bubble for everything, good and bad. And so if you care enough for the things you want to fight for, it becomes difficult to figure out what battles to fight. And that's one
Right.
of the reasons why I wanted to have this discussion, because it is overwhelming. Like, I don't really play a whole lot of Activision games, but I love Blizzard. They're now owned by Activision, and I really don't like what they're doing to that company.
Right.
And that leaves me conflicted because I do want Diablo 4. I do want to continue to play Diablo 3 and any updates they release. I do want to go back and play some of the older games, which I can only play if they re-release them, correctly. And granted, you can pirate, but that's not a real solution.
No.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean,
you really need like a remastered,
Yeah.
re-release kind of thing
So-
to make a sense.
EA and loot boxes, people had issues consistently with how they did things, and they spoke out. And now we have Apex Legends, in which it's like, here's how it works. Here's all the drop rates. You get a legendary every 30. This is what you want. Are you happy with this? And people are not talking about it at all.
Not,
'cause
not
they're
even,
fine
well,
with
not
it.
even,
we give
not even asking if they're happy with it. Just sort of being like, this is the way things are. Oh, okay, all right, yeah, we're okay with that. Yeah, cool.
Well, do we treat companies the same way we treat people
Yeah.
in this aspect? I mean, we seem to give certain people a little bit more leeway. We seem to give certain companies more leeway because of what they do and how important they are to us. So we're like Netflix, for instance, we're able to look past like them having the House of Cards thing and keeping that up there. Or,
Well,
but they did do things to be like, all right, well, Kevin Spacey's face isn't on this movie thing anymore. So
it's kind of like a cost benefit analysis internally there, though. I mean, like for an individual person, if somebody's up front with you about something, you're, depending on the type of person you are, of course, you're probably going to be a little frustrated because you don't like something, but then they're going to be like, well, all right, well, you were up front and you told me at least, that this is what it is kind of thing. Versus if it's something hidden that comes out of the dark, it's a little bit more of a surprise. So it catches you. So you have a bigger response out of it kind of thing.
Well, in each
Companies are the same way.
each industry has a different approach. Each product has a different approach. Like if I were an EA fan and I wanted to tell them that I like what they're doing, I would invest into Apex Legends right now.
Oh, yeah.
I would have not invested in the other games. When it comes to Netflix, I don't watch Kevin Spacey content.
yeah.
And therefore, they're losing my view. If enough people do that, they stop trying to purchase the rights for that. So therefore, that's no longer on there.
Yeah.
I
don't do it actively. I just, for some reason, I'm deferred to it. I defer to something else
No, yeah, it is not a.
because
It's-
I'm more along the lines with you. Like, I like the movie
Yeah.
and I'm going to watch it.
Like realistically, when I read Kevin Spacey's, because I guess we're touching on him pretty.
Yeah, it seems to be the.
I was gonna make a bad
There's
joke.
a lot of
touching on
touching.
him, touching on him pretty heavily.
Yeah.
No. The fact that he, said that he, rubbed up against his roommate at the time, that kind of thing, or whatever. I guess when he was exploring himself or whatever at the time. It was at the time, your roommate didn't obviously make a huge deal about it at the point, I guess, but
That wasn't the issue, though, is that he was sexually assaulting people on the set of House of Cards,
I must
on
have missed
numerous
that
movie
somehow.
sets. Like, it was an ongoing thing throughout his career.
You deserved it. Sorry, I was trying to defend you and like, oh yeah, that was the one thing. No,
That's the
sorry,
thing.
you kind of
There's
deserved it.
nothing to really defend when it comes to bad behavior, but at the same time, like you can recompense and do things to change, like going and getting help,
I
therapy,
do
or
agree.
you can go
Yeah.
and I don't know,
Linus Torvalds. Leaving the Linux Foundation for a little while anyway, because he was being verbally abusive over the public message forum anyway, to his contributors. Well, he went and he seeked help, and I guess it took enough people finally coming at him to say that, hey, this is a problem, man. You might want to fix this, or look at it, or deal with it.
Well, and again, I feel like if we were to talk about the smaller blemishes in a personality or a company or any of these aspects, I think it would become easier, because I do feel as we get further into a political correctness world, it is becoming harder and harder to allow the small things to let go, and then the big things lose their agency. And that's my big fear right now, is because, I can't remember his name. There's a weird situation in Virginia right now where there is a Democratic senator who is seen in college with blackface on. Yeah. And members of the Ku Klux Klan. However,
really weird Google search.
From my understanding since he has been involved in the government, he has done a lot for minority.
Again, one of that might have literally been more along the line. It was Halloween or whatever, right?
And that doesn't excuse the behavior, because it was wrong.
I mean, again, I understand that, but with times and the acceptance and you could literally go outside.
1980.
That's fine. You go outside this city, and there's still a lot of things that happen there that you would think it is 1980.
It is, and it's still wrong, regardless of the time period. We have the context for it, even in the 80s.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I'm not excusing it, but at the same time, I'm respecting the time period.
In the 80s, blackface and Ku Klux Klan were racist. Like, that was well known. So
I know
that doesn't.
But it was also a lot more rampant. I'm just saying I understand that it happened. I'm not saying that it was okay.
There's nothing. I don't understand what your point is then, because if you know that it was, people knew it was bad then, and they knew it was bad at that time.
What I'm saying is it's a lot more culturally accepted in some places that other people are, as opposed to where, though it was considered
1984. Yeah.
So
84.
I'm just saying.
No, even better. It's in Eastern Virginia Medical School's yearbook.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
that's where it was from.
I can't believe they had a yearbook.
Next to somebody who's wearing a full Klan robe.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's not.
When I hear about things like that, it's like, I don't know. I try to take things into account, like in my memory, like why, or in my mind, like, okay, why were they doing this? Why did this happen? Like, why did you feel it was okay? Okay, it was a long time ago, because that is 40 years ago. And it was only 20 years after a lot of shit went down, and from everywhere in the southern seaboard going all the way up.
You're also talking about You're talking about Virginia, which was kind of one of the last states, including North Carolina, Georgia,
literally,
South Carolina.
Those people knew what they were doing was wrong, which is why they tried to hide it. The Klan was hiding at that time, so the culture was known to be wrong.
Well, Black Klansman, great movie,
so good.
First off, how many times though has some major change like that, or some major political issue come like that, and it's been funny?
Oh no,
and my guess, my defense of what John was talking about, at the time that might have been acceptable.
No, it's not.
Eastern Virginia Medical School, put it in their yearbook, so obviously it was somewhat acceptable.
Like I said, you go outside of major cities, and things are so different to a point where I'm like, dude, I don't know how you live. Let alone like cultural acceptance of social standings and things.
But you still have to point out it's wrong, like regardless of their context.
I'm not in charge of.
Like, if we're sitting here and we're trying to adjust,
I'm
and change,
a huge fan. If you do whatever the fuck you want, if enough people don't like it, sorry, I dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah, he was looking at me like
I was literally typing one of them in. It was like,
if enough people don't like it, they're gonna let you know, and you're gonna have negative consequences. It doesn't really matter what you think individually, which is why I don't really take a stand.
Because you have to speak out. You just said if there's enough people who they'll let you know.
Yeah, that's cool, but I'm not one of those people. I usually tend to let a lot of things go because I'm a huge fan of letting people do whatever they want to do, and unless it actually has a negative effect on me.
I truly believe that if you think something's wrong, that you should speak out, and I believe what he did was wrong. If I'm
asked, I will.
You are right here on this podcast.
Yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is I'm not gonna go out and like state every little thing that I find.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm saying we're looking at this specific example.
I think blackface is wrong.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
So what he did was wrong.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to.
I never said anything else.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You kept trying to excuse it.
I wasn't excusing. I just appreciate where people come from because it's a different area and a different mindset. At which point I don't have, so I don't know why the fuck he did it.
I don't understand
F-bomb.
why he did it either, but it doesn't mean that it's not wrong.
I didn't say it wasn't wrong.
You keep it from your conversation. That's
I
what
have
it sounds
this
like.
argument with you all the time, and I don't know why, but I just don't care as much as other people do, and you don't like it.
It's not that I don't like that you don't care, because I know you don't care about a lot of things.
It's true.
I feel like you're right here. You're giving them a pass. That's
I'm
what
not
it
giving
sounds.
him a pass. I don't even like the
But
guy.
that's what it sounds like. Your words
guy,
make
but
it sound like you're
But
giving
see,
him a pass.
That's
I just-
that's the fine line though that guys like John and I draw. So like I said, I don't care up to a certain point.
Yeah.
But the hard part is it's not always a firm line of this is where I draw the line. Sometimes the scenario is a little different because the issue is that we can't always make that determination about how we feel about it necessarily right up front. You obviously have a much lower bar to set as far
I
as
do.
where you think you draw the line as far as like how you're going to spend your money or how you're going to focus on people based on how much that you think that really affects you. But walking the line of we don't really care, it's like, well, how much does this really have an effect on me? Because it's a much more of a personal thing versus like, well, it might still be a personal thing for you, but it might just be a little bit more. And it's going to sound weird to say, but sensitive. In the sense that
No.
Yeah.
you want to. I guess you want to have more of not apathy, empathy or sympathy, or
I just like holding
Certain
people
for people's-
accountable.
for the different scenarios.
I like holding people accountable for things I think are wrong. And my level of what's wrong is usually lower because though I do believe in gray, there are some things that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like I care about the context of the time frame when we're talking about before civil rights. Once you're past civil rights, everything's racist if you're trying to aim for that. It could be funny at the time, it could be a joke.
Well,
it's still racist. And
Well,
we still
even-
tell
technically, even
racist
before
jokes
that,
today.
It's racist. It's still it's
You're
still doesn't
right.
change whether it's
Literally,
racist.
you watch half the comedians that we've been listening to recently, and it's really bad. We would be like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that some people would think that we were racist for listening to it,
I
or
understand.
sexist, or whatever. the hell
Context
it
matters on all of that, just like it matters on what they're talking
was. I guess
about
just
there.
prejudice because there's so many different things.
But I think that there is a time and place, and all of that does matter.
Really? Because I mean, as far as I'm concerned, at that point, you should hate that person or really dislike that person for being so grotesque and accepting so many things.
I can say someone's wrong and not hate them.
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
saying hate.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, okay, fine, he's a governor, that kind of thing. If he's a decent governor,
Well, and
I'm
that's-
not going to knock him for
and
being
that's
a
what I
bad
wanted to-
governor because he was blackface, or did blackface in a yearbook, 40 years ago.
And that's why I
Well,
found this
but
conversation.
he's saying we should.
No, what I'm saying is that you should say his actions were wrong then. I wanted to talk about him because today he's apparently doing a lot for the minority community, and that's what muddies the water for a lot of people.
So is it because of what happened, or is he doing? Was he doing it before?
We don't. No, he was doing it before this was found out.
Okay.
Right. Well, but that's the thing. So here's I guess another piece that I guess gathered from my own thoughts of like how my brain works with this. It's how your past matters into your future. If you've progressed,
I agree.
If you've progressed differently, fine. 35 years ago, you posed it for a picture with blackface on, that kind of thing. When racial issues were kind of tense. Now, okay, you're helping minority communities because you feel that's the right thing to do as a governor. Cool.
Yeah.
Whatever, you've progressed.
I agree.
You as a person have progressed, that kind of thing. Versus Kevin Spacey. It's like, hey, I was like
Yes.
kind of, sexually assaulting people whenever I was, whatever,
But he showed no
in high
remorse.
school, college. And I'm still
Yeah,
doing
he
it
definitely
now.
showed no remorse.
I mean, he didn't give a shit.
He's just
Well,
like, I'm gay.
Yep.
that was his response. No, I
And
just
the funny thing is like he didn't even identify the age thing. He was, I'm just gay. And I'm like,
I find
But it's how your history affects your future.
I agree, and that's why I wanted to talk about this because I do think this is very interesting. I think that the gentleman's very gray. I don't know enough about it. What he did was wrong, and I will not
No,
be
he was black in the picture.
correct. I don't understand why he did it. That really matters less to me. If he owns up to it, it'd be wonderful.
It's probably everything to do with just
The
same-
region and
no.
humor.
I was going to say exactly the same thing as a certain person that's a person we shall not name anyway.
at what
that,
point in time
that
did we draw a
dresses
line?
up,
Though?
in his high school at the time. A couple years after 9/11 anyway, comes in, with a turban and full
Yeah,
robe on.
yeah.
It's fun. To some people it's funny. It is.
What's interesting here is that, given the circumstance, he's not owning up to it. So that's the other thing, is that he's helping out this community, but this comes out, and instead of being like, yeah, that was me, I was a dumb kid, you can look at my record and done things. Instead, he's like, that wasn't me.
Well,
no, that was somebody else.
He
So-
might
so
not
there-
even
well, so
remember
there's-
he did it.
No,
There's
no,
the-
he's giving multiple conflicting statements.
Well, so
is
there's the
issue
other
here.
variable that's
So
thrown
is
in.
Trump, but he's still president.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't make him any more right than this gentleman.
Well, so there's the other variable then is how you handle the situation.
Yes.
Do you try to bury it or do you just accept it?
I truly believe, much like we've been talking
If he would have
about.
accepted it, they still would have crucified him.
No. They would have crucified him, but it would have been over already.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
have been like, wow, this person really messed up and really did this. And then everybody else would have been like, yeah, but he's okay now. Cool. And then they moved on. You know, like it probably would have been like 3 days worth of headlines and then it's gone.
Instead, they're still talking about it.
The problem is
We're
like
talking about
everybody likes to dwell on the one thing that you did, and I've got plenty of skeletons in my closet that I'm still ashamed.
You
of
heard it
to
here
this
first
day.
on Happy Hour, folks.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot. Believe it or not, there are things that I'm ashamed of, but at the same time, like if they came out, I wouldn't be totally torn about it. I accidentally caused a fire one day.
Well, I feel like the difference would be like again, it's not just the context
You're
of
about
what
to
you
tell us you
did.
killed some people.
No, it didn't.
It's what you've done since then and how you handle the situation coming out. There are plenty of things that I don't want to discuss with people, but if it comes out, I will discuss it with you.
Oh, yeah.
Like hands down, here's how I was at that time. This is my thought process as much as I can
You
remember.
might be slightly ashamed of it, but
Yeah.
you know, but as long as you own up to it, that kind of thing. And unfortunately, it's the other side of the conversation, though. Do you wait till it comes out for you to own up to it, or do you own up to it
The
up
problem
front?
is it was
you know?
completely politically motivated. I don't feel like it was done out of like, oh, I feel like this is the right thing to do. No, someone was just trying to get an edge over someone else while trying to further themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's just disgusting, and that's why I don't care. And I feel like there's always someone trying to put someone else down to further their agenda, and I'm just
That's
tired.
fine, but there's still substance to what they're presenting.
I agree.
And I agree
is
with
the
that.
issue. And don't get me wrong, I understand where do you draw the line there.
Yeah.
Okay,
where
this
do you
is-
draw
this
the
is-
line? If they
this is
did it in
political-
1970 or 1960 or 1950, or they were born in this day,
Well,
or
no,
they
no.
were not
It-
here,
it's-
but
I
they
don't-
were
I
born
don't
in this
miss-
side of the city?
It's a case by case scenario. There's no hard.
Exactly. And so that I just literally draw the line. I'm like, I don't have the mental capacity to work, do this podcast, and have friends and drink. And I just don't think about things like that.
Yep.
Because the world is a really crappy place and you just make the best you can of it.
I can't do that. I can't. That's not me. And I'm exhausted all the time, but I have to care.
Yeah.
I have to care.
So that's
Awesome.
that's
Because
just
if I
not genre,
don't
it's
care,
just-
then none of this matters. It just all of it's meaningless then to me.
I care when it affects me or the people I care about because those are the things that I can at least
See-
try to.
and
It affects my life. I mean, that's the things you're supposed to try to change. I'm not a superhero. I mean, I
Right.
read about superheroes because I
Yeah.
enjoy the prospect of it, but that's not me.
I'm not trying to be a superhero. I truly believe that we're all connected. Like this entire planet, every individual is connected to some degree.
Mhm.
So if you don't care about
It's called global warming.
every single instance of it, if you don't care, it is affecting you, whether you realize it or not. There is an aspect to it, the butterfly effect, whatever you want to call it. There is a thread that ties us all together. and
Global
you
warming is
have to
here.
care.
Stop using fossil fuels. Stop using plastics. I
Yep.
need you to actually probably throw away your clothes because they probably use coal energy to make them.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, they probably use a lot of gas to get those clothes here. You should just walk around naked.
You act like because I care, I should just not do anything.
Well, the problem is what line do you draw? When
I
you care?
draw all the lines that I can every day, and it changes consistently. That's why I'm tired.
And yeah, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
and I don't have the energy to
Once again, but I just cannot. I feel like it's a waste of time if you don't. It's very hard for me to
find
understand that.
but
thought
it's more
process.
selfish at that point.
It is.
Yeah, I don't. No,
And-
hands down. I'm not saying
no,
it's
no,
not.
no. For us, it's definitely much more selfish.
Yeah.
You know, do I care that the plastic on the shirt is made of a petroleum-based product that had to be mined out of a well somewhere that's going to be polluting our earth because it's alongside gasoline that came out? Not particularly.
Actually,
I don't get me wrong.
I
I
do.
understand
Yeah.
that
But
harming
it's
the
sad.
earth is wrong, and yes, I can take certain measures to do that. However, I just I enjoy that car out there much more than I enjoyed my previous car that was much more economical than the other one. You know, it was much better for the environment than the other one.
Mhm.
You know, it's taking advantage more of what I've got
Mhm.
rather than thinking I've got to pay attention to every little thing and make my own sacrifices all the time to, I don't know, I guess better everything else.
I just feel like you have to be such a stuck-up person sometimes to believe like, oh no, my level of righteousness is the right level of righteousness.
I don't think it has anything to do with righteousness, though.
Well, I mean, like,
Brent's not
I
here
care that
crucifying us
care-
because we're
we
wanting
all
to be
care about the
selfish, you know?
environment, right? We all care that global warming is actually a thing. We know that is coming, and that we're making it worse every single day, and we're not really doing much to not attribute to it
the other-
outside of turning our lights off when we leave the house, trying to drive more economical cars, except for Mark. You know,
I ride
it-
a motorcycle. It's actually more economical than both of you.
fair enough.
Fair enough.
But at the same time, like, your line is your line. My line is my line. But you feel like my line is wrong. Or you feel like
It's
my line
not
is
that
not
it's
enough.
wrong. It just it
What-
hurts me.
Well, no,
It
he doesn't agree with it.
literally. Yeah, I don't agree with you. We're still friends.
Are we?
Like, yeah, we
I
have
don't think
been-
so anymore.
We have been
It
for-
takes too much energy to
for a
drive.
long
Sorry, folks.
time.
This is the
to
last
do this
episode of Happy
podcast.
Hour. We thank
It's
you
a
for
lot
joining
of-
us. No,
But
okay.
it's hard to explain because it hurts me that both of you don't care and emotionally.
Again, my
burdens
level
me.
of care for things is I do care, but I understand what my limit of effect I can actually
Yeah, no,
attribute with the amount
so
of
that-
energy I can put into it.
So that was the. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the other piece of it is realistically, and again, I'll be open about this. I'm very much a realist of things. You know, like I'll understand, I guess, where my own limitations are on things, and realistically, how much of an impact am I as the individual going to have? If there's an option for me to do it on a mass scale and participate broadly, cool. You know what? And do it without having to go like the next level of expense to get there.
But every little bit helps, and if everybody were to contribute that way, it would be mass scale.
And I
the
need you to
problem
throw
is
away
that
your
you
car.
don't. I'm not saying throw away your car. I'm saying that every little good thing you do in this world adds up. And if everyone were to do a good thing, or 2 or 3 a day, it all adds up to helping these causes. That is where I stand, as I am the ultimate optimist in the worst case scenario, because I'm really pessimistic about a majority of things in the world, but I consistently try to do something about everything that bothers me, and it's not effective.
See,
I
Your
constantly
life is
squander
exhausting, and I'm not
energy.
even in
But
it.
one-
see,
100%.
the funny part is you talk about the optimism or pessimism versus optimism, you know, that kind of thing in daily life versus, you know, these individual things. I'm the complete opposite. I'm an optimist in the majority of the time than in my life, that kind of thing, and I'm a pessimist whenever it comes to like the individual pieces of like, oh well, I can help here. Well, you know, I don't
Yeah.
really have that much of an impact.
I know. Well, it hurts.
Well,
Wait.
I mean, I could see the collective bargaining in certain things, and in others, I'm like, there's literally like, you want to talk percentages, it would be something so astronomical that the amount of inconvenience it would be massive on the individual scale and nothing to the grand scale, and to a point where it just doesn't make sense. You have to have a cost benefit.
Well, but there's other ways of doing. Like, there's always another option. Is the way I look at it. Like, you can do certain things, but if that's not working, let's find
In some
another way to
cases,
do
like
better.
the EA incident with the transparency with the loot boxes and stuff like that, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
There is sometimes a better option, a right option, or an option that doesn't cause as much controversy. But in other instances, like in this scenario with the dude that did blackface, I think he was going to be crucified regardless of what he did. Is there a better option to like get it and just like rip off the Band-Aid? Yeah, if that's your thing. Some people like the masochism behind it. And just tear off nice and slowly over every single hair pop.
Yeah.
And they all sit there
Let
and
it
deny
like
it to the
slow
end of the
burn happen.
I'm gonna kill this conversation because I feel like we could go on in circles forever.
we really could,
Oh,
because it's a lot more personal.
All right,
so.
how about this? Like anybody who actually does listen to this and for some reason stuck around to the very end.
This is
Yeah,
a long one.
tell
today.
us-
Honestly, you're a trooper at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. Tell us what you feel like. Is it, or do you feel like you can actually have a? Do you agree with me and Mark more along the lines, or do you agree with Brent?
Yeah.
Or do you think that letting companies do whatever the hell they want and you're going to buy their product because you want it, or do you want to, show them that you care by speaking with your wallet in certain circumstances and so on and so forth? Whatever you think.
Let
give
us know in the
examples.
description below.
And
Yeah.
the comments above.
And if we have enough people even talking about it, we'll bring it up again and say, you know what, this is what a lot of people said. This is what a lot of
Yeah.
people think. This is what I agree with and don't agree with. So on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But for now, it's time for last call.
Last call.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. There was one shout out specifically I wanted to note since nobody else did, and that is there is once again another Humble Bundle. This one is about learning how to code.
Oh, cool.
So if you
That's
put in $25, I believe, you get all of the programs. 15 is the bare minimum, and it is anything and everything. There's PHP in there, HTML, JavaScript, Java, C#, C++.
PHP doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, PHP doesn't matter, but there's a lot of content there. Pick and choose what you like, dive in. It is well worth it.
What does PHP stand for?
Pre-hypertext processor.
I'm very proud of you. I had no idea.
So PHP was actually the language I learned programming with. And I will tell you, PHP doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's useless.
Unless you work at Facebook, of course.
Or Red Ventures.
Really?
Yeah, from my understanding. Doesn't matter. Let's move on to the question of the week, which is, gentlemen, what is your entertainment comfort food?
Oh,
Cheez-Its.
That is entertaining.
That is like
What do you do with these said
TV
Cheez-Its?
shows, movies,
You said comfort
music,
food. So I was like, I'm
entertainment
going to go with
comfort
Cheez-Its,
food.
yeah.
What do you eat while you're watching movies?
Actually, I use Cheez-Its like ninja stars, and I throw them at Kay while he's sitting at his computer. I'm like, bam. My comfort food, I would probably say finding a good anime.
Yeah.
And just binging that while drinking Diet Coke and finding a pastry.
There you go. Now we're gonna go with the actual food. Go for it.
Mine is Pokemon. Pokemon is my comfort food. I can pick up any one of those titles in any of the generations except Gen 4 because it's the worst at me. I don't care. And play those consistently. It doesn't matter my state of mind, where I'm at. I adore Pokemon. And I think the other one alongside that is probably Final Fantasy 9. Like those two things alone. Other than video games, Ocean's 11 is a movie that I can put on at any moment.
It's funny you say that. I've been playing the Ocean's 11 song that they have. I forgot what it's called. It's called
Claire de Lune.
Yep, Claire de Lune.
Oh,
Thank
so
you.
good, so good. And then House, all 8 seasons. I know the last 2 are terrible.
Wow. Okay.
I love House. I could watch any season, any episode, anytime.
Wow. Okay.
So those are the things that whenever I'm feeling like I just tonight, I'm probably gonna go and watch some Ocean's 11 or House.
It's like kind of like The Office for somebody. They're like, yeah, this is what I do on Netflix. I go through, I spend a half hour looking through Netflix, and I turn on Office that I've watched 15 times.
Because you should. It's such a good show. I was a hater. I didn't believe.
Yeah,
I did not believe, but I believe now.
Yeah.
It's so good.
it is funny. And Parks and Rec will grow on you too. Just gotta get past
See,
that
I haven't
first
gotten there
season.
yet. Yeah.
Gotta get past the first season.
You
It's
can
rough.
literally skip it. I don't always
I agree
recommend
with
it,
that.
but you can.
I would watch the second half. No, watch the first half, then skip.
Yeah.
Watch the first half, then skip. You get
Alright.
most of the people in there.
Let's see.
Someone really wants your balls. Right?
Apparently. Wait, what? That took me a second. No. So let's see. From a video game perspective, it's got to be. I haven't even touched Rocket League in a while.
Counter-Strike.
Yeah. See, I would say that, but the problem is that when I play Counter-Strike and I'm frustrated, I just get more frustrated. Because the problem is I get frustrated, then I don't pay attention to things, and then I get more frustrated, and it's just an endless loop. Don't get me wrong. It was still something I will do when I am frustrated. I just go into it knowing that I'm going to get more frustrated, or I go into it with alcohol, one or the other.
It was a game that I was super curious about because I never played. So I went on and watched it on Twitch.
Yeah.
And then I was like, everybody goes to the same exact position and just tries to get the edge on, like by the middle. Pop, pop, pop.
It's a
I'm like,
precision game.
yeah. And I'm like, but the thing is, it's not very like precision, like you're looking through sights or anything.
Nope.
It's
From the hip, everything.
awful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's about knowing, one, the fact that the movement is based on acceleration, not based on your actual, like, I press W and I'm going to go forward at this speed instantaneously. No. I'm
There's a
going to
progressive.
ramp the speed. If I hit S in the middle of that, it's going to decelerate at a certain speed, that kind of thing. You have to kind of time that right.
Yeah.
Not to mention, if you're moving, your crosshairs, widen, so your spray pattern widens. It's a bunch of things.
Yep.
So it's a lot of very precision oriented, actions, that kind of thing. So probably the biggest, actually, Battlefield 5 has been my late one.
Yeah.
Just because I enjoy hopping on and I play for a little while and I can do whatever it is I want to do, that kind of thing. And
Awesome.
I can fly some planes. I can jump in a tank. I can
Yeah.
run around as a little infantry if I want to, that kind of thing, whatever. But, and I can have big impacts or I can have little impacts. And either way, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
It's a good time no matter what. From,
Go ahead.
you're going to have really, okay.
You're right.
From a media perspective, it's How I Met Your Mother, 100%.
Oh,
I always have a
that's a good
smile,
one.
always laugh
That's a
every
good one.
single time. Doesn't matter. Scrubs is the same way.
Yeah.
And you said The Office. The Office was another one of those. Anyway, another episode comes on. I'm like, I haven't seen this one in a while. What was
Dude, Barney, that man,
Oh,
he's a legend.
very
that?
good.
That guy.
Good old
Yes. Yeah.
NPH. He's the
F
man.
word. Write it down. But that is all for us. Please let us know what your entertainment comfort food is, both what you like to eat while you're doing it and the entertainment comfort food itself. You can put it in the comments right here in the right corner. It's probably the left for you
Down
because
below
it's
in the
murdered.
description, actually.
And until
Murder.
next time, we'll see you later.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That conversation is not good. I hope you like soap.
If that is that, oh wait, that is carbonated. I was like, motherfucker, no, I'm not drinking this. It's insane. This is
Come on.
not a Tide Pod
I
challenge.
mean, yeah, but like you have to
it's the
clean
new one. It's the Dawn
Dawn
Challenge.
the
Challenge.
Dawn challenge. You got to clean out the inside of your body at some point in time. And what better way than with framboise?
I tend
I
to
would
like
just
to
say
use
colonoscopy
salmonella.
would actually be better, but
I mean, you're not wrong.
might
Doesn't
be
like a finger in the bum.
That's a lot more than a finger.
It's a probe.
That's a fist.
Whoa, that's not any colonoscopy I want to be a part of. Where do you think Mark goes every time?
I don't know.
It's almost always like he's leaving us here.
I think he goes to whack one out.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I think it's less insidious. I think he's really insecure about himself.
What's insidious about jerking off?
I guess less sinful is a better way to put it. I think he's just really doesn't have a lot of self-confidence. So he's just in there staring at the mirror going, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this, Mark. You can do this.
I don't know what to say to that. To be honest, it's a little weird.
Everybody, just leave in the
I
chat.
don't have to
just
pump myself up.
Just leave in the chat.
You can do this. Yeah.
You can do this, Mark. You can do this. For all those who want Mark to podcast without a
Leave it
shirt
down
on,
in the- you better
leave
hurry.
a comment above.
I guess next time because it's not live.
He's not here to defend it. The comments could be anywhere. You'll never find them. Sniper bitch.
It's a giant hole you got there.
You're not wrong. There's a lot of content here.
Podcast just gets weirder and weirder by the minute.
Yep.
So we're on par for being really fucking weird.
For this thing,
It's
Nut muncher?
Theodore Harrington III.
Theodore Harrington.
The third.
Wait, I
The
thought we
third.
were going like, what was the S name that we were using?
We should have a THC acronym. Theodore Harrington Concord.
Collingsworth.
Collinsworth.
Theodore Harrington
Collinsworth.
Collinsworth. You've been renamed the third to Collinsworth.
THC3.
Rabbit. 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 John, are you ready?
They just reiterating. I just wanted to.
Are you ready to clank?
Are you actually ready? God. I'm sure that's great for the
You
conversation.
might have killed the bloom light, is my concern.
No, I didn't hit it.
Oh, gosh. Please no.
Protect him.